Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Donohue, and I'm running for Co-op Council. Thank you so much for coming today, and for the current council and all the volunteers for putting this wonderful day together and serving us this wonderful food, one of my favorites. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about myself, why I believe in the co-op, and why I'm running for the council. Um, I moved to the Hudson Valley about a year ago. I've been a member of the co-op only for about a month. I think I was driving by a house and they had a co-op sign in the yard. And I got really excited. I went to Oberlin College for undergrad, and we have a really, I mean, that was a long time ago, but there's a very active co-op program there. And so that was the beginning of my learning about co-ops. I ate in a co-op, and it was the kind of thing where you cooked the food, you planned the food, you prepared you did the prep, the cleanup, whatever. Um, Initially, it felt like a nice respite from the horrible food in the cafeteria, but it was also less expensive, more nutritious, and there was like an incredible camaraderie in the work that we did. Eventually, I ended up years later living in Brooklyn, New York, and joined the Park Slope Food Co-op. Again, very excited to be part of a collective like that. If you're not familiar with it, that's a co-op where everybody works. And like Clay, I I did a job called Commando Cleanup, which was so much fun. It was a Sunday every quarter from 6 to midnight, when the grocers were gone, I mean the shoppers were gone, and we did big projects that couldn't be done. But you got to know every nook and cranny of the store, intimately, the freezers, and where they prepared the food and different things like that. And that was a little bit of a different experience. When I was in college, everybody was about the same age, with similar interests. But the Park Slope Food Co-op did more to bring people together, who maybe might not normally spend time together and work and believe in something. Um, so I was really excited to join the co-op, and I have to say that I think a lot of the excitement is about what I believe is wrong with our economic system. I think that our economic system in the United States perpetuates the myth of scarcity, that there's not enough money, there's not enough food, there's not enough housing, and there is. There's plenty of all of those things. You might call it an abundance, concentrated in a small group of people. And it's difficult to break. It's difficult to be ethical in an unethical system, I think. But there are ways to begin to chip away. My background is financial education. I have a doctorate in education. I've worked in finance, but I've also spent many years since then in financial education and economic empowerment work. So I'm a strong believer in looking at alternative ways to live your values. And I think that's one of the things, I'm older than some of the folks in the room. The older I get, the more I feel like, my primary value is taking care of my family, but second, in a way where I can support my values. The mission of the co-op, looking at providing affordable, nutritious food for the community, um, paying workers a livable wage, treating everyone with dignity, is something I believe strongly in. And as I look at my background and how I might contribute as a council member, or if that doesn't work out, as a volunteer, plenty of good candidates to choose from. I think about the financial side of things. And, if you look at forgive me, I'm at my heart an educator, so I tend to always wear a teacher hat when I'm not wearing a mother hat. The two kind of correspond. So just want to put that out there. So when you look at a grocery store, a for-profit grocery store, right, like a Tops or a Hannaford or any corporation, Goldman Sachs, if there's something unexpected, like say price inflation, like we're going through now drastically, right? They can do different things. They can raise their prices, they can fire people, they can take away their benefits, they can lower their wages. And the other thing that happens too, I don't know if you've noticed this, I read about it in the paper, but I've seen it, where all of a sudden your 16-ounce box of cereal is now 12 ounces, but nobody told you, right? It's just like, why does that fit now in the cupboard where it didn't fit before? And so those are the levers that they have to make sure that they make a profit, right? Additionally, I would think that we're all in agreement that organizations like that, corporations like that, also really exploit people. So when this spat of inflation that we're facing right now levels off a little bit, which it probably will, right? A lot of these things are cyclical. Are they going to lower their prices? Are they going to put the bigger boxes back on the shelves? Are they going to rehire those people? Unlikely, And that's what happens with capitalism for profit. So looking at this organization and like the very beautifully and clearly written mission and vision that you can find in the bylaws, that you can find on the website, we're not going to do that. If inflation happens, if another unexpected event like the pandemic happens, we're not firing people, we're not making food unaffordable. So what needs to happen? And that's where I think, the council's responsibility for financial sustainability of this organization is really critical. And that's an area where I feel like I could make a difference. What does that mean exactly? Well, we're talking about looking at different projections into the future. What might happen? What does it take for the co-op to support itself? There is a prudent reserve. There is, I want to say shareholder equity, it's member equity. There's a wonderful, long, comprehensive, very readable set of bylaws, if you haven't seen it, that talks about when that can be used. There's also various sources of funding. So looking at, how all of these pieces come together to create an organization that perpetuates this mission. Looking at alternative sources of economic health for the organization. The other thing I wanted to mention, as I said before, I'm a teacher. My area is financial education and economic empowerment, but I'm happy to teach anything. I'm really also particularly excited as I look at the design for the community spaces and the ability to do learning for the community, both in nutrition and food prep, but in lots of other things. For me, it would be financial education and economic empowerment. I'm also thrilled with the proximity to the bubble and the ability to partner with that organization and Kingston Midtown Rising and other organizations in Midtown Kingston, so that we can share, the largesse, right? Whatever we have to share. So I'm, really thrilled to be here. And as I mentioned, I believe that, the other candidates are very strong. So anyway, thank you again. And thank you. And, and my name again is Melissa Donohue.
Thank you, Melissa. Vanna White, please. Thank you. Clay, would you please come to the front? Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much for giving everyone the opportunity to introduce themselves today and for putting together this wonderful annual meeting. To all of the council members and volunteers who have made that possible. It's great to be here and to see familiar and new faces and to re-meet people and meet people for the first time. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Claire, or Clay. Both names are kind of equally on the table for me at this point in time. I use they, them pronouns, preferably. And I'm kind of a newcomer to Kingston. I moved here in 2020 and was really excited to join the co-op as soon as I arrived. As Melissa said, I lived in Brooklyn and was a member of the commando crew on the Park Slope Food Co-op. I did that for many years. I lived in Brooklyn for 10 years and also joined the co-op there as soon as I arrived. And I always felt that being a member of the co-op was one of the things that allowed me to exist in New York City, which is not necessarily my natural habitat. And I'm very excited to be relocated here. And one of the things that made it such a vital part of my experience in the city was access to affordable and healthy food that otherwise was well beyond my price bracket. Like, it just wasn't in my budget to access the same quality of food in other ways. And that remains true here. And so I'm very excited about the opportunity to both become more integrated into the Kingston community, to listen and learn from other folks, and try to build a bit of a bridge between newcomers and folks who have been here for a long time. I'm one of many, many people who have relocated to Kingston in the pandemic time period, but gentrification was something that Kingston was looking at even before the pandemic. And I think that for me, new people come and go from everywhere. That's a part of being human in this moment of climate change, in this moment of like the stresses of capitalism, we have ties to many people in many locations. Being a newcomer doesn't necessarily mean that you're here to disrupt a community, but I think that the co-op is uniquely positioned to help bridge some of those gaps and help folks integrate and listen to what the needs that already existed in Kingston, in Midtown, were and are and will be, and help work towards meeting those goals together. A little bit more about me. I'm a theater maker primarily, and also a stage technician historically. And currently, I'm a farmer at the Hudson Valley Seed Company's seed farm, Fourfold Farm. So I bring a lot of pockets of experience and a broad range of skills and excitement to learn and to listen. I have a lot of facilitation experience making different kinds of events for lots of different kinds of people, and I'm excited to help offer some of those skills here at the co-op. Either on the council or in other ways, I'm excited to plug in more deeply to this organization. As Melissa said, I think that everyone who's running could be an excellent council member, and I'm excited to be in such good company and grateful to you all for considering me and for coming out today and for putting your values kind of at the center of what you're trying to build in this community. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Clay. Should we finish the registration? Yeah. And Siobhan.
Thank you, everyone. Hi. I'm just going to share a short statement that I wrote and then like a personal story at the end. So hi, everyone. My name is Siobhan DuPont. I'm the outreach coordinator at the Kingston Food Co-op. I've met many of you before and some new faces. So just want to thank you all for coming out today and for being here and spending some time with us. I'm excited to run for council because I have a unique perspective as somebody who grew up and who lives in the community that the co-op will be in. So this project is very near and dear to me. Prior to joining the co-op, I was working for the Kingston YMCA Farm Project, which is right here, actually, just behind the building. And that gave me an understanding of the landscape of our local food system, the barriers to accessing fresh and particularly local and organic produce in our community. That's something that we spent a lot of time trying to address, and we had a lot of creative ways to make the food accessible, and just in terms of like location and price, and also providing that educational piece. So I have a lot of ideas that I'm excited to bring to life to help our co-op move forward to meet the community's needs by using the co-op to partner with local organizations that are working to address food insecurity in Midtown and beyond. As many of you know, this is not just an issue that affects Midtown, but Kingston as a whole and even the surrounding areas. I look forward to being more involved in the programming and food access and equity element of our organization, taking a deeper dive into listening to our community and what would help them, but most importantly, working for solutions that will engage our community members in the creation of our co-op and create a local food system that celebrates and supports all of Kingston's communities. And I'll just share a quick kind of what drove me to the co-op before stepping into the role as outreach coordinator that I was talking about with Claire a few minutes ago. When I was first introduced to the Kingston Food Co-op, I was working at the Y Farm Project, which I mentioned is right here. I met Katie Condrat and Joe Greenberg, who most of you or some of you probably know. They came to the farm with our youth crew and gave us an introduction about what the co-op was and like how organizations like the Y Farm could fit into the organization. And I was really driven to it. I wanted to get involved as a council member at the time because my dad, he had a stroke a few years ago,
and he's fine, but it really affected his mobility and his vision, so he's not able to drive anymore. We live on Pine Grove right here in a 2-family house, so we're neighbors, and that helps me because I can like bring him to doctor's appointments and stuff like that. But what really made me want to get involved with this is because my dad, to get his groceries, he'll go like once a week or every 2 weeks, and he walks to Hannaford. And sometimes he'll take a bus if the bus picks him up, which is, if some of you guys have taken public transportation, it's very unreliable. So I try to bring him as much as I can, or I'll try to pick up things from the store when I'm out. But as I was saying, this was really important to me because I know that he's not the only person in this community who struggles with transportation and getting their groceries and living on a fixed income. So that's a challenge that I know, like I said, he's not the only one that's facing that. And it really motivated me to get involved in this work on a deeper level because I don't think that getting food should be something that is a privilege or a burden, especially access to healthy food. Like, I want the best for my dad. I'm sure everybody in here wants the best for their family. And I think that food plays a huge role in your quality of life. So hopefully I'm able to bring some of my ideas that I have that will increase our food access in Midtown prior to opening our doors, because as most of you know, opening a co-op is a long and arduous process. It takes time, it takes building relationships, it takes building trust, and so I'm excited to dive into that part, and yeah, I'll end it there. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Siobhan. And this year we actually have a write-in candidate. So Jordan, do you want to come up?
Can you all hear me? All right, so I'm going to be a write-in candidate. My name's Jordan. I guess I could start with a little bit about myself. I am a long-term and long-time anarchist organizer. I do mutual aid, including Food Not Bombs, where we serve free, healthy food on a weekly basis in Midtown Kingston, and I helped start one in Kingston and in Newburgh. I kind of have been doing like food distribution and mutual aid work for years, and kind of got involved with the co-op early on, kind of just sort of being like, oh, interesting, a co-op. Like I was involved with one in college, a food co-op at Purchase, and I did a lot of other organizing built around consensus organizing and consensus-based decision making. So I was like, okay, I've seen co-ops that have no consensus, have no like accountability to its members. I would like to see one. If we're going to have one here, let's have one that's going to be built around actual values that bring participation in, and also question the assumptions of our society, such as like capitalist economics and top-down structures of how we even operate. So a few years ago, I got involved with kind of behind the scenes working on the core values working group and sort of trying to narrow down some of the language, because the language at the time was like super broad, very watered down, sort of like something you would see at ShopRite now, you know, of like, you know, access, all these words that everybody starts to use, but they don't mean anything often nowadays. It's kind of the same way where every company is saying they're green, but they're not. So I got involved with that, and then I kind of jumped in as someone who into the building development committee as somebody who does like construction work and building, and do a lot of like, I'm in the process of building a structure right now at Pallets. And I guess, so that's kind of how I got involved with the co-op. And then I continued to come to meetings. Around food distribution, why it's important. Obviously, we could talk about how expensive food is and how much healthy food is not accessible to people, especially in urban, Black and brown, marginalized communities. And growing up in Newburgh, I could definitely attest to seeing that there. So I'm not from Kingston, but I've done a lot of on the ground talking to people and working with folks in that way. Through Food Not Bombs in Kingston, when we started it, there was a huge thing around displacement. What does displacement mean? Gentrification. That word that a lot of people try to like tiptoe around. And I'm willing to be in the room and say, no, this is what we're looking at. We are looking at gentrification. Even opening a co-op with all the best intentions is likely to contribute towards gentrification of Kingston. Now, so I've been on the fence for the past couple of years of whether or not I even want to see this co-op exist. I'm still here after all these years, and even after battling with co-op council members around issues of displacement, and having hard conversations and other comrades talking with the Buffett, the Buffett Foundation and Novo and talking with the Broadway bubble of being like, you guys can speak up for the people who were living in the back lot of the co-op or are on the streets and are these like marginalized the edges that the co-op continues to speak about. So I feel like part of the work that I've been trying to do and part of why I want to be on the council is I want to continue to be in that space where we're not just going along with it and then it becomes watered down, So institutions, nonprofits have this way of taking grassroots movements and kind of turning them into something that doesn't have teeth anymore. I haven't completely given up on this co-op, even though sometimes there are days where I'm like, I don't know if there's anything we can do to really make sure it still has teeth. It still has something that we can, to make sure that, as Kivia says, and I think pretty accurately, that the edges are included in our co-op. So I think displacement, gentrification, and ecological thinking through that whole process has to happen. There have been times where the co-op council, the current co-op council and past co-op councils has disappointed me in the way they've addressed displacement and not willing to stand up to the Novo Foundation, who's providing most of the money for this, to say, hey, y'all are kicking out people, the Broadway bubble's kicking out people, and they're scapegoating grassroots mutual aid groups, such as the People's Cauldron or Food Not Bombs. These are all things that have happened. I've been there along that way, making sure, and at least, attending the meetings when I can and being like, hey, what are we doing here? What is the co-op really about? Are we going to be complicit in this or not? So a couple things, as a short-term goal, I want to continue to stay engaged. We're all busy. I'm a father. I'm a gardener. I'm an arborist. I do a lot of things. We all wear a lot of hats. For me, moving forward with the co-op, I'd like to be in that space, be in the council, and be able to push the boundaries in the sense that the culture that we create within the council and within the co-op in general, I don't want to see it fall into this place where it's just another yuppie hangout. And I get the idea of, everybody's got to be welcome, whether you're poor or rich or whatever, right? It's a co-op. Fine. Not at the expense of those who are living on the street, not at the expense of those who are poor, working class, etc. So I think as a short-term goal, I want to be in that space and continue to push that forward and keep the values alive and make sure we're not kicking people out. As a midterm goal for me, I guess I want to make sure that those trees in the back of the lot don't get cut down, those black walnuts that are like part of the planning thing. Making sure that like we're not choosing, if we want to spend all this money on the co-op, we need to do it correctly. We need to do it well with ecologically intentions from the get-go and as we go forward. I feel like I'm starting to lose a little bit of my train of thought, and I want to just touch on like two more things real quick. I guess I want to say that word again, gentrification. I want to bring that up because it's something that continues to be a thing. So I think to the highest extent possible, leaving the building looking like the other buildings in the town and not making it look fancy, not putting all these big murals on. Unless it's a mural of a cop car on fire, I'm not interested. So, and I'm serious. But I think, we can be accessible to everybody. We can be open, and we can also still have the teeth to say, all right, we don't want to see, Kingston fall down this line of like, what people say about Beacon or whatever. So I don't know. With all that being said, I'm a write-in candidate. My name's Jordan. I'm probably going to be, I don't know if the co-op council is going to be putting anything out there for me, but you can go on to the Members Against Displacement Instagram, or just write me in, Jordan D. What? Oh, you can vote me in, Jordan Davis. I would like to be on the council. I've been trying to do it for a couple years, and I hope that we can usher in a new, nothing new, just more of the same but better. Like, I don't know. No, that sounds like Biden. Definitely don't want to be associated with that. Whatever. I'm just trying to keep it real, and I want to, hopefully we can do this. So, write me in if you can, please.
Thank you, Jordan. And thank you so much to all of the people running for the council for wanting to get involved, and for all the work that you've already done to be involved, and the work you've put towards this co-op. Just to let everyone know, this is all going to be on the voting ballot. There's only one 3-year term up. So there's one person that can be elected. But there are also appointed seats. And I really hope that everyone who's interested in running joins the committee. We're looking to get more people involved and really increase the capacity. It's been a lot of work for a few people. So I would love for everyone to still get involved. Every year, the people who run don't end up joining committees afterwards. So that's my shout out for that. And we also have a member who wants to say a few words. So.
I was just about to not speak. I thought it might be inappropriate. I might embarrass myself. But thank you, Jordan, for touching on people getting pushed into a corner and gentrification, and that kind of gave me the courage to keep saying what I've been saying. I lived in the back of the Bubble Lot. I lived in places like the Bubble Lot all over the country. And I think in the summertime, I didn't predict this, but it's just something that I've seen throughout my experience and travels. People get pushed into a corner when places like this open up, or any place really, when places don't take into consideration the people that are already there, because they're drug addicts, drug dealers, gives a shit, mentally ill. So they really don't see them as people. So a community member died recently that hung out back there, that lived back there. She spent a lot of time back there. She was a young woman and a mother. And she was with us when we wrote our request, then our demands. And still we see no change, and we see nobody taking into consideration the people back there, the people closest and most affected, for whatever reason. It seems like prejudice because their lifestyle. Nevertheless, they're humans, and they deserve to have things and have life. And still no one speaks up and stands up for us back there. And I'm no longer back there. Now I have the privilege to not be back there and take breaks or whatever. But still no one standing up for our community members back there. And our voices still fall on deaf ears. They're silent and ultimately non-existent. And she left behind the child. I don't know her that well, but I know she left behind a child. She was a young woman. And she was close to that area. She wasn't directly in the parking lot when she was found. but she was very close by. And it's just the reality of things. And I really hope to see a difference back there. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And I hope that we will all come together and do this work and hear everything that our community is saying to us and take pauses. That's really what we need, is some pauses to, I mean, Kivius brought it up earlier, do some deep listening. And that's where we are now also, is double checking everything, making sure that as we continue moving so quickly through this project that we don't have blinders on while we're looking at the end goal, and make sure that we keep checking in and keep listening and keep making sure the community is in this project, that it is a space that is going to be welcoming for everyone and allows access for everyone. That has always been the intention. So double checking along the way is of course necessary to make sure we don't lose sight of that goal. And again, I hope that more people will get involved so we can have more capacity to have more of these conversations. We need to be out in the community more. We need to be getting more feedback. And there have been 5 of us who have full-time jobs, and it's been utterly exhausting. So no complaints, love it and whatnot. But but seriously, yeah, increasing capacity and having more people involved is what's gonna make this project become what we all envisioned it to be from the beginning, and the true community hub that it needs to be in order for it to have, for the good to outweigh the inherent negatives that might come from having such a nice new building on Broadway. And this is something that we talk about all the time. We know no matter what our intentions are, there are going to be implications to having this big brand new building on Broadway. So we do need to keep doing that work to make sure that that at least it levels out, so there is more good done, that more people are having access to healthy food, that this place becomes a space that everyone can be a part of instead of the opposite. So with all that said, thank you all again for coming here, for listening, for participating. And we're going to ask that everyone takes out their phones, or we have laptops as well, and we go into voting. You want to do bingo first? I have a couple of people. Yeah. Nope, I want everyone to vote first. But we will do the raffle in a few minutes as well. But if you could take out your phones, you should have in your emails your login information for voting. And it would be great to do it here and now, because if you have any questions about the bylaw changes or the ballot, then we can help and answer those